Welcome to our deep dive on rent versus buy. To begin, we'll frame why renting can be a smart, strategic choice right now, especially if your situation is still evolving. Next, we'll unpack the common myth that renting is throwing money away, and then transition into a practical framework to decide what's right for you. Stay with me as we lay the foundation for smart housing decisions. Before we go further, this content is for educational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. Your situation is unique, so please consult a qualified professional before making major financial decisions. With that said, let's move forward into our agenda. First, we'll challenge the myth that renting is wasting money. Next, we'll explore the benefits of renting, including flexibility and cost predictability. Then, we'll cover the minimum versus maximum rule for mortgages versus rent, followed by a breakdown of the real costs of homeownership. After that, we'll walk through a decision framework and readiness checklist. Finally, we'll reinforce your learning with quick quizzes and wrap up with key takeaways and next steps. Let's start by addressing the myth that renting is throwing money away. Shelter is a necessary expense regardless of whether you rent or own. Ownership does not automatically convert all payments into wealth, especially in the early years when interest and non-equity costs dominate. With that clarified, we'll now transition to the specific advantages of renting in uncertain times. Renting supports flexibility, which is especially valuable if your career or family situation may shift. Rent provides cost clarity, because the monthly payment is generally the maximum you will pay in a given month. Upfront cash requirements are lower, often limited to a security deposit and perhaps fees, compared to a substantial down payment and closing costs when buying. Renting also preserves your optionality, allowing you to try neighborhoods and wait out market volatility. Finally, renting can reduce stress since major maintenance responsibilities are not on your shoulders. Now, building on these benefits, let's examine how rent compares to a mortgage payment structure. Here's the key distinction. As a renter, your posted rent often represents your maximum monthly cost. As a homeowner, the listed mortgage payment often represents the minimum. On top of principal and interest, you must add property taxes, homeowners insurance, potentially private mortgage insurance, homeowners association dues, and an allowance for ongoing maintenance and repairs. Consequently, homeownership expenses can exceed the mortgage line item by a large margin. Next, let's compare renting and buying side by side. Side by side, renting offers predictability, low upfront costs, and mobility, which can be valuable while you build savings. Buying may build equity over time, but that process is slow in the early years, and the upfront and ongoing costs are substantial. Additionally, buying reduces flexibility if you need to move for career or family reasons. With this snapshot in mind, let's quantify a typical monthly cost stack for homeowners. This table presents an illustrative homeowner cost breakdown. While principal and interest might be approximately $2,560 in this example, the total monthly burden grows after adding property taxes, homeowners insurance, private mortgage insurance if applicable, homeowners association dues if applicable, and a maintenance allowance. The total can rise well above $4,000 monthly in this scenario. These numbers are examples only and will vary by market, interest rate, down payment size, and property specifics. Now, to visualize how each dollar is allocated, let's look at a cost distribution diagram. This pie chart illustrates the proportion of a typical homeowner's monthly expenses. In the early years of a 30-year mortgage, interest often consumes the largest slice. Principal is smaller initially, while taxes, insurance, PMI, and maintenance plus HOA take meaningful portions. The takeaway is that a large part of the monthly outlay does not build equity. Next, we will enumerate upfront and ongoing costs you should plan for before buying. When preparing to buy, plan for significant upfront costs including a down payment, closing costs such as appraisal and title fees, and move-in or setup expenses like furniture and appliances. Ongoing costs include property taxes, homeowners insurance and possibly private mortgage insurance, HOA or condo fees if applicable, a maintenance and repair budget often approximated at 1% of the home's value per year, potentially higher utilities, and the opportunity cost of tying up cash that could otherwise be invested. With costs mapped out, let's shift to a readiness checklist to help you prioritize stability. Start by stabilizing your financial base. First, get and stay debt-free, or ensure any remaining debt is low cost and manageable. Second, prioritize an emergency fund targeting 6 months of essential expenses. Third, Maximize retirement contributions, especially to capture any employer match. Fourth, build a dedicated fund for both your down payment and closing costs. Fifth, stress test your budget using the full ownership cost stack, including taxes, insurance, PMI, HOA, and maintenance. Sixth, confirm long-term location stability, aiming to stay at least 5 years. Seventh, price the specific home you would buy and compare the all-in ownership cost to a comparable rental. Now, let's test your understanding with a quick quiz. Question: which statement best reflects the rent versus mortgage monthly dynamic? Option A. Rent is usually your maximum monthly housing cost, while the mortgage payment is often your minimum. Option B. Both rent and mortgage payments represent the full, all-in monthly housing costs. Option C. Mortgage payments are typically higher than rent only in luxury markets. Option D. Rent is always cheaper than owning, regardless of situation. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is, rent is usually your maximum monthly housing cost, while the mortgage payment is often your minimum. Owning requires adding taxes, insurance, potential PMI, HOA dues, and maintenance to the mortgage payment, which often increases total monthly costs significantly. Next, let's move into a decision framework to assess whether you should buy now or keep renting. This decision tree begins with the question of whether you're thinking of buying. It first asks if your job and income are stable. If not, the recommendation is to continue renting and build your base. If yes, it asks if you plan to stay 5 or more years. A no again suggests renting to maintain flexibility. If yes, it checks whether you have saved at least 6 months of expenses. Without that cushion, it recommends renting and saving further. If you have it, the final gate asks whether you have a 20% down payment or a strategy to avoid PMI along with closing costs. If not, continue renting and saving. If all gates are met, you may consider buying prudently. With the framework in place, let's address mobility and timing considerations. Career growth can require moving, and renting supports that agility. Family plans and space needs can also change on short notice, making flexibility valuable. Market conditions, including home prices, interest rates, and taxes, shift over time. If your financial base is not yet secure, waiting can be prudent. Prioritize liquidity so that you are not forced to sell under pressure. Now, let's reinforce a key savings rule with a second quiz. Question: for individuals with recently improved finances and low savings, what is a prudent emergency fund target before considering homeownership? Option A, 1 to 2 months of expenses. Option B, 3 months of expenses. Option C, 6 months of expenses. Option D, 12 months of expenses regardless of context. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is 6 months of expenses. Building this emergency fund provides a protective buffer against income volatility and unexpected costs, which is especially important before purchasing an illiquid asset like a home. With that in mind, let's consolidate the key points you should remember. Remember these key points. Renting is not throwing money away because shelter is a necessary expense. Rent is typically your maximum monthly cost, whereas the mortgage payment is often only the minimum. Homeownership demands significant upfront cash and comes with multiple ongoing costs. Prioritize building a 6-month emergency fund and maximizing retirement matching before buying. Consider buying only if your job and location are stable for at least 5 years and you have stress-tested the full ownership budget. Lastly, value your optionality. Mobility can be more valuable than premature ownership. To move forward, compare your real monthly costs as a renter to an all-in ownership estimate. Build or top up your emergency fund to 6 months. Maximize retirement contributions and capture the employer match. Open a dedicated account for your down payment and closing costs. Use a calculator that includes taxes, insurance, PMI, HOA, and maintenance. Reassess your readiness every 3 to 6 months as your career, family plans, and market conditions evolve. As we wrap up, I have a quick favor to ask. Thanks for watching. If this was helpful, please like the video, share it with someone weighing rent versus buy, and subscribe for more practical money content. In the comments, tell us whether you are renting or buying next and why. See you in the next video.